If at any time during today's presentation you experience any technical difficulties, please let either Louisa or I know by sending a private chat or by sending us an email. To start a private chat, just mouse over either of our names and click on Start Private Chat, and you may exit and re-enter the webinar at any time. Today's webinar is being recorded. I'll be sending each of you a link to the recording once the session has ended. Okay, joining us today are Kathleen Fear, Data Librarian at the University of Rochester, and Mayu Ishida, Research Services Librarian at the University of Manitoba. Both Kathleen and Mayu participated in the 2014 eResearch Network. You'll be hearing from both of them a little later on in the program. So welcome, Kathleen and Mayu, and thank you for joining us today. Here's a brief overview of what we would like to discuss in today's session. First, we'll talk a little about what the network is and give you some background information. We'll discuss the goals and objectives of the network and talk about why the network is important. We'll then follow up with some return on investment, what you and your institution can benefit and how you can benefit from being a part of this network. I'll talk briefly about the structure of the network, and we will have some time at the end for Q&A. So what exactly is the DLF eResearch Network? The eResearch Network is, first, a peer network, data curation practitioners working to introduce services and systems that manage, provide access, and preserve research data. The network is also a mentoring group, a team of expert consultants to provide feedback and to suggest options around service and system development. The DLF eResearch Network is also a community of practice, practitioners sharing information and experiences, learning from each other, and having the opportunity for professional and personal growth via collaborative projects and other endeavors. So now I'm going to spend just a few minutes giving some background information on the network. The eResearch Network was designed to help members of academic and research libraries develop strategies for creating and implementing eResearch and research data management support services through a means of shared learning experiences and through collaborative efforts. The eResearch Network was established in 2014, initially as a response to eScience Institute participants. These were institutions that had gone through the eScience Institute and felt it was a great experience, but once the eScience Institutes ended, the question was, well, what's next? What do we do next? How can we stay engaged with one another? And how can we continue to grow this community of practice? The eResearch Network was also an answer to call for resources for practitioners in research data management services. So in 2014, our first cohort consisted of 8 institutions of varying sizes and with a variety of needs. And they were Colgate University, Montana State University, Northwestern, the University of Arizona, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, the University of Manitoba, University of Rochester, and the University of Toronto. The eResearch Network is facilitated by eResearch faculty and by CLEAR DLF postdoctoral fellows in data curation. The eResearch Network is also now a DLF special interest group. And if you have a look at the DLF website, you'll see that eResearch Network is one of the groups listed there. The goals and the objectives for the eResearch Network are to support professionals implementing and delivering research data management and curation services through a peer network and through mentoring. We want to build a community of practice for research data management and curation, establish a structured means for sharing skills and expertise in this area, and provide ongoing support and facilitation to the group via CLEAR and DLF. So why is this network important? Well, it's important for a variety of reasons. As you know, research data curation is a specialization in search of credentials. Where do you go for training? Research data management has become an institutional responsibility that supports many domains. Who do you turn to for ideas? Institutions are planning, implementing, and maintaining research data management services and infrastructure. Library professionals have become responsible for designing and supporting these services. Who do you turn to for support or advice? So what's in it for you? We're going to talk a little bit here about return on investment. So what's in it for you and for your institution as members of the 2015 cohort of the eResearch Network? Well, as a professional, there is opportunities for network and mentoring, skill building, internal and external cross-institutional collaboration, also becoming the expert at your institution, being a catalyst to move forward with research data management services. For your institution, advocating for the development and sustainability of research data management services in libraries at your campus and across institutions, building on the collective knowledge and experiences of the network, and contributing to the growing community of practice. So to hear more about how you and your institution can benefit, I'll now turn the floor over to Kathleen and Mayu. Kathleen, when you are ready, the floor is yours.
Actually, I thought Mayu was going to speak first.
Okay, Mayu, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Right. Thank you, Rita. Hi, everyone. This is Mayu. I'd like to share how eResearch Network was beneficial to me and my institution, the University of Manitoba. Through the network, I was able to learn from and collaborate with librarians at other institutions engaged in research data services. One of the group exercises we did in the network was to peer review research data services at another institution, and the University of Manitoba was matched with University of Arizona. And based on the feedback from the University of Arizona, my colleagues and myself were able to improve our research data services. We were able to provide in-person training for our liaison librarians to equip them with a basic level of skills and knowledge of data management. And we are preparing assessment activities to understand the data management needs on our campus. And the University of Arizona has already done certain assessment activities and was kind to provide their survey instrument to us so that we could refer to that instrument when we were designing our own. Another piece of advice we received from University of Arizona was the importance of for our library to be part of the university-wide conversation about the development of research data services. And our library was fortunate to join the campus-wide data management working group this past September. And because University of Manitoba libraries joined the eResearch Network, I believe that we were able to frame ourselves as an advocate for the development and sustainability of the research data services, and was able to share what other academic libraries are doing in terms of research data services. This past October some of us, the former eResearch network peers, organized a panel to share our eResearch network experience, and also with the two former eResearch network postdoc fellows. And based on the feedback we received during that panel session at the DLF forum, we decided to continue our collaborations and started this research project regarding research data services vision at academic and research libraries in North America. And now the librarians from 5 institutions, including myself and Kathleen, are continuing to work on this project.
Okay. So this is Kathleen, and I'll just build a little bit on what Mayu said about Rochester's experience in the group. We found it really helpful to, we've long had sort of a core group of librarians interested in data services. And what was really nice about joining the DLF group was, we kind of hosted these webinars, and it was a great opportunity for other librarians to kind of drop in and join the conversation a little bit without necessarily committing to being heavily involved in data for the long term, but they could kind of come and hear what was going on and share their ideas as well. So it really kind of sparked new conversations across the library, which was really awesome. We also used our experience in the group to take another look at our eScience agenda. We had participated as one of I think the second cohort of the eScience Institute, and so we had really moved through most of what we initially decided to take on in our eScience agenda. And so the DLF group was a pretty useful framework for kind of rethinking what we wanted our data services to look like in the larger context of kind of subject librarian roles and library services. Our library over the last year and a half, I guess, has been going through quite a few changes, and I'm sure that's true for many other institutions. And I think another useful piece of the DLF group was really just kind of carving out a dedicated time to reflect on what we had been doing with data to this point and where we wanted to go from here. It spurred us to take a look at some pieces of our services that we kind of hadn't gotten to yet. Mayu mentioned that Manitoba is doing additional work on assessment, and we are as well. So one project that kind of kicked off coming out of the DLF group was we really wanted to focus on assessment. And in particular, we've been doing a lot of outreach. And so, having a lot of contact with faculty through workshops and through one-on-one consultations and things. And in many of those cases, we kind of knew what the outcome for people had been. So if we talked to people about data sharing, we kind of knew what they were doing. But there were a lot more people who sort of came to the workshops, said that they enjoyed them, and then we didn't know, did they take anything from the workshop and apply it in practice, that kind of thing. So we wanted to take a closer look at that, and in particular, looking at faculty who are subject to data sharing requirements as conditions of publication, how well they're complying with those rules, and can we do outreach more effectively to help them along. So that sort of sums up, I think, what our big takeaways were. We started many more conversations within the library. We kind of developed a plan for our services going forward, which was very much informed both by the webinars that were held monthly and through all our conversations with our peer institutions. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. If you have questions for either Mayu or Kathleen, feel free to type them in the chat box there. We will be pausing for Q&A towards the end of the session. And thank you, Mayu, also. Okay, so a little bit about the structure of the eResearch network. The 2015 cohort will run from April 21st through October 24th. Institutional teams of 3 would be comprised of, but not limited to, a library administrator, a data or eResearch eScience librarian, and a non-library participant. This last team member could be research faculty or a center director, CIO or IT department director, or a research computing director. Critical to the network's design is the inclusion of key players and decision makers on each institution's team in order to maximize the benefit and ultimately the usefulness of the team's learning objectives and outcomes, as well as the overall experience. This year's group will begin with one of 2 in-person meetings. The first meeting would be co-located with the 2015 RDAP conference held in Minneapolis. The second meeting, in-person meeting, will be the concluding event and will be co-located with the 2015 DLF Forum. A series of 5 webinars will be offered throughout the program and will feature relevant topics and guest speakers who are experts in the field. In between webinars, participants will take part in group activities and interactive curriculum that will foster resource sharing and skill building. Working with eResearch faculty and with CLEAR DLF postdoctoral fellows in data curation, each participating institution will receive a personalized consultation on a topic of their choosing. Consultations will take place during the 6-month period. Opportunities for collaborative work across your campus and with other institutions are also a benefit for being a network member, as Mayu and Kathleen mentioned earlier. This is a list of some of the topics that we covered in 2014. Research data services and libraries, digital repositories, assessment and evaluation, library instruction, faculty and student engagement, data education and or data literacy, data collection, discovery and analysis, and services evaluation. It is likely that some of these topics will be addressed again this year, but ideally we'd like to see the topics be participant driven so that we can make sure your needs are being met. These are some of the changes we have made for the 2015 cohort. This year we'll have 2 in-person meetings, as I've mentioned a few minutes ago. In 2014, we just had 1 in-person meeting at the end of the 6-month period. We're going to have a stronger emphasis on institutional activities and outcomes via peer review and collaborative efforts. The 2015 cohort will be building on the work and the efforts of the first cohort, 2014, and as we move forward in building this community of practice, we see the cohort building aspect of this becoming very critical and very important to the success of the group and to the learning experience for all participating institutions. The eResearch Network is now a DLF special interest group, as I mentioned earlier. And as such, the eResearch Network group will be hopefully presenting a panel or a presentation at the forum. And also, we will be starting to build a wiki for research data management services resources. And this is just a brief list of logistical information. Registration is open through March 31st. The cost of the program or the network is $3,000 per institutional team with up to 3 members. DLF members or CLEAR sponsors do receive a $500 discount. The first in-person meeting will be co-located with RDAP 2015, and that will take place on April 21st. Webinars and curricula and group activities will take place throughout the 6-month period and will begin in May. And then our final in-person meeting will be held in conjunction with the DLF Forum, and that will take place on October 24th. Each participating institution, each team member will receive a certificate of completion, and each institution will be contributing to the community of practice and helping it to grow. So at this time, let's pause for some questions. If you have questions for either I or Kathleen or Mayu, take a few minutes now to go ahead and type them into the chat box. Okay, I'm going to just give another minute or two while folks are typing in their questions. Zoe, I see you are asking about the interactive curriculum. What we did for the first cohort was use Adobe Connect meeting space or webinars, such as we're doing today, as the main delivery format for our guest speakers and our curriculum, in addition to Clear Connect, which is Clear's community space. It's a content management system, if you will. And there are groups of folks that are assigned to separate communities. Well, we'd like to take it a little further this year, and what we've done, we've invested in the e-learning module that goes along with Adobe Connect so that we can actually create curricula or curriculum, lessons, courses, content within a course, that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by interactive. I hope that answered your question. And that will also help facilitate the group activities that we'll be doing. In the 2014 cohort, that was done primarily through Clear Connect. And if any of you are familiar with Clear Connect, it's not the most user-friendly system. So we want to try to move away from using that forum as the place where these group activities and peer review activities take place. UMass Medical, do you have to be an institutional member to participate in the DLF special interest group? Are you referring to, do you have to be an eResearch network to be part of the DLF special interest group? Is that your question, UMass? Well, currently our interest group consists of participating institutions and those institutional teams that were part of the eResearch network. Melissa, there's the answer to your question. The registration fee, the fee does not cover registration for the conferences themselves. So if you wanted to attend the DLF forum or RDAP, in addition to those in-person meetings, that would be a separate registration cost. Are you going to give some presentations at RDAP? I will actually be presenting a poster at RDAP on the eResearch network. There may be others in the previous cohort that will be doing presentations or panels or posters at RDAP. Is there a way for individual librarians to join the eResearch network? Yes, of course. Ideally, your teams would be a team of 3. I will use an example from last year's cohort, which was Colgate University. And they technically had a team of 3 in place, but there was really only one team member that participated in the network. And he, I will say, got quite a bit out of it and was very happy with the results and that he came out of the experience with, including, and probably most importantly, the collaborative relationships that he established with the other network members. Let's see, I think there was one more question. Melissa asked about the wiki. Is that just for the cohort or open to all? Well, the DLF wiki is actually brand new. I'm going to have to let Louisa answer that question. There is another special interest group that is using it at present, and we have plans to build out a page or pages for the eResearch network as well. She says the wiki will be an openly shared resource. Thank you, Louisa. Okay, Pete, I'm not ignoring you. Your question is, I'm curious about what role a team from a smaller college as opposed to a larger institution would play in this network. I think I just touched on that by mentioning the experience of Colgate University. The gentleman that participated is Pete Rogers, and I'm sure if you wanted to contact him with more specifics about his experience, he'd be more than happy to speak with you. But based on the feedback that we received from him, I think Colgate was one of the participating institutions that benefited the most from being an eResearch network member. If your institution is not a member of the network, may you join in some way? So you can join the eResearch network on behalf of your institution. And hopefully, are you able to, are there other people on your campus that you can think of that might be willing to join the network with you? Okay. I see Hillary is typing, and while we're waiting for that, I am going to put a quick poll up that asks, if your institution were to join the eResearch network for 2015, which aspects of research data management would you like to see addressed? And if you would just take a minute or two, just type in if you have any ideas about topics you'd like to see addressed, that would be great. Okay, so there's Hillary's question. Are there any other planned eScience institutes? What's the difference between the eResearch network and the previous eScience institutes? That's an excellent question, Hillary. Thank you for bringing that up. There are not any additional eScience institutes planned that I'm aware of. CLEAR and DuraSpace held the last eScience Institute 2 years ago. Prior to that, ARL had been involved with DuraSpace, then CLEAR became involved, and DuraSpace no longer wanted to participate in the eScience Institutes. I think that particular program had reached its plateau and interest was dwindling. So the eResearch network was really a response to, again, to eScience Institute participants who went through the eScience Institute and said, well, this has been a great experience. We've learned a lot, but now what? What is the next step? So by building this community of practice and by sharing resources and skill building, that was our answer, our follow-up, if you will, to the eScience Institute. Now the difference is, in the eScience Institute, one of the main exercises or outcomes of that, participating in that program, was for institutions to develop a strategic agenda for research data management services. So it was, again, about a 6-month period. So institutions spent a lot, almost all of that time, working on different aspects of building the strategic agenda. That is not what we will do in the eResearch network, but that is certainly something that we can talk about and have share resources on and learn about together. I will say that, as Kathleen mentioned, several eScience Institute participants actually did join the eResearch network last year. And in talking with some participants, I do know that in some cases, strategic agendas were completed or nearly completed when the Institute was finished. And oftentimes those agendas got tabled or turned into other documents, and not a whole lot of them, became of them. I will tell you that CLEAR has just partnered with OCLC Research to do a small project looking at strategic agendas that were created as part of the eScience Institute and what has become of them. So that is the difference. I hope I answered your question, and I didn't mean to go on so long about that, but there is a significant difference. Okay, where can I find outcomes and accomplishments services of network members done in the past years? Well, there are some testimonials on the DLF web page. And then if you become an eResearch network member, you will have access to our previous webinars and documents, etc., that we have collected, and that's in our Clear Connect community. Looks like UMass. How focused will the eResearch network resources be, for example? Will any specific tools be addressed? UMass Medical, can you give me an example of specific tool? Do you mean as in software or LibGuides? What kind of tools? I will say that in last year's cohort, when we did the peer review exercise of research data management services at cross-institutionally, it was interesting to see what libraries are doing and how they're doing it. And everybody's doing it a little bit differently, but we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. So that was a very interesting exercise. Okay, programming language, platforms for data collections. Yeah, so you won't get programming skills necessarily out of the eResearch network, but that's not to say we can't have a guest speaker to come and talk with us about what programming languages might best benefit you, especially in health data. So these are the kinds of ideas that we are looking for, especially with the little poll that I put up. So yes, technical training, no, but discussion of it, absolutely. Can the team be larger than 3? Asked Zoe. I mean, ideally the team is larger than 3. Louisa, I don't really have an answer to that, Zoe. I say the more the merrier, but that's just the way we've structured it in terms of costs. UMass, I hope I was able to answer your question. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes left. Yes, larger than 3 within reason. So there's your answer, Zoe. Great. And I see Brad is typing. Kathleen or Mayu, is there anything you'd like to add?
About the upcoming RDAP, I'd like to mention that I am.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Mayu, go ahead.
Okay, about the upcoming RDAP, I'd like to mention that I'm convening one panel on the role of assessment in research data services. And Kathleen agreed to be part of that panel, and then she would discuss her assessment activities at the University of Rochester. And there would be 2 other panelists talking about assessment of data management plans and also the assessment of research methodologies, that how those factors would affect the data management needs of researchers.
Great, thank you, Mayu. Brad, I see your health data and privacy, which also gets into other social services and sciences research, is a topic unto itself, indeed, and absolutely a great topic for a future webinar. Thank you, Brad. So definitely, I can say that, you know, in order for this experience to be beneficial to everyone involved, having you suggest topics for a discussion or a deeper dive into is what we want, and that's one way that we can best serve you as an eResearch Network member. Okay, I'll give the poll just another minute. Thanks everyone for submitting your ideas. Any last questions before we wrap it up? Okay. So lastly, here's our contact information. Louisa Quasigras is our Senior Program Associate for the DLF. And I am Curriculum and Research Strategist for CLEAR and DLF. You can follow us on Twitter. There's the hashtags down at the bottom of the screen. We do love questions, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have. So I want to just take a few minutes to say thank you to everyone that has joined us today, and to our guest speakers, Kathleen and Mayu. We really appreciate the time that you took to come and learn more about the eResearch Network. We hope that you will give it some thought and consideration. And again, feel free to contact us with any questions or concerns you might have about the network. So on that note, I will say goodbye, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon. Thank you so much for coming.